systems. As early as ancient Babylon and India, central banking, the art of monopolizing the issuance of money, had been developed into a perfect method for looting the general public. Even today many bankers copy the traditions of the earlier exploitive priesthoods and design their banks to resemble temples. Defenses of central banking are simply part of the deception that lies at the heart of all power elites. Let us look at the way a new central bank is created. Where none has existed previously, we bankers approach the prince or ruling assembly, both of whom always want more money to fight wars or to curry favor with the people, and typically are ignorant of economics. With a compelling proposal, grant our bank the national charter to regulate private banking and to issue legal tender notes, that is, force our notes to be accepted as payment for all debts, public and private. In exchange we will provide the government all the notes it prudently requires at interest rates easily payable. With existing taxes, the increased government purchasing power thus created will simultaneously assure the power and prestige of the currently precarious nation and stimulate the sluggish, credit-starved economy to new heights of prosperity. Most important, the violent banking panics and credit collapses caused by unscrupulous private bankers will be replaced by our even-handed, beneficent and scientific management of money and banking. Our public-spirited expertise will be at the disposal of the state while we remain independent enough of momentary political pressures to assure sound management. For a while this system seems to work remarkably well. With full employment for everyone, the government and public does not notice that we issuers of the new notes are using the notes we create out of thin air to surreptitiously build economic empires at the expense of established interests. Because of the legal tender laws, few of the new notes issued by the central bank are returned for redemption in gold. In fact, private banks and even a few foreign banks may begin to use the central bank's notes as reserves for further issuance of credit. Soon enough, though, prices begin to rise as the added notes increase demand relative to the quantity of goods and services. As the value of their savings decline, more and more foreigners in particular begin to question the value of the central bank's notes and start to demand redemption in gold. We, of course, do not take responsibility for the rampant inflation when it comes. We blame inflation on evil speculators who drive up prices for personal gain, as well as the greed of organized labor and business who are promptly made subject to wage and price controls. Even the consumer can be made to feel guilty for agreeing to pay the high prices. Mistaking symptoms for causes, the government accepts the bankers' analysis of the problem and continues to give the bank free rein in monetary policy. By slowing the rate of note issuance periodically, the ultimate crisis stage is postponed until many decades after the original central bank charter was granted. Before the rapidly dwindling gold reserves on which faith in our bank depends is exhausted, we abruptly contract our loan volume to private industry and government as well. With the contraction of the money supply, a great deflationary crash begins in earnest, with all its attendant unemployment, bankruptcies, and civil strife. We do not take responsibility for the depression. We blame it on evil hoarders who are refusing to spend their money and the profits of doom who are spoiling business confidence. The government accepts this analysis and leaves monetary policy in our hands. If things go well, we bankers channel the fury and unrest into puppet movements and pressure groups that carry our agents into full control of the government. Once in charge, we devalue our outstanding banknotes in terms of gold and make them inconvertible for all but possibly foreign central banks, and begin plans to restore a prosperity that will be totally ours. When lucky, we are able to confiscate the gold of private citizens as punishment for hoarding during the climax of the Depression. Once the old order is subdued during the chaos of the crash and desperation of the Depression, the field is open for our full finance capitalist system to be realized. If the money lords behind the central bank can avoid lapsing into political and economic competition among themselves, a new and lasting order can be established. The wartime for this period of consolidation provides the perfect excuse for the regimentation required to crush all opposition. Professor B, the former chairman of a central bank, will explain the functioning of the central plank in the typical fully developed finance capitalist system. *****. Professor B on the function of the central bank in the mature finance capitalist system. We are undone, my dear sir, if legislation is still permitted which makes our money, much or little, real or imaginary, as the moneyed interests shall choose to make it. Thomas Jefferson. From now on, depressions will be scientifically created. Congressman Charles A. Lindbergh, SR. 1923. In its pristine form, the central bank is a private monopoly of the nation's money and credit issuance supported by the coercive power of the state. That the central bank be direct lie in our hands is vital until our new order is firmly established throughout the governmental, business, intellect, UAL and political spheres of society. After our order is consolidated, formal nationalization of the central bank with great fanfare is usually advisable in order to dispel any lingering suspicion that it is operated for private gain. Of course, only loyal agents of the dynasty are allowed to obtain high offices in the bank, and our power remains intact. Obvious private monopolies are always the targets of sharp reformist agitators. Only the most paranoid, however, can see through the public facade to the private monopoly of the nationalized or quasi-nationalized central bank. The central bank is the primary monopoly on which all our monopoly power depends. The occult power of the central bank to create money out of nothing is the fountain head that fuels our far-flung financial and political empire. I will make a quick survey of a few of the ways this secret money power is brought to bear. Basically, the power of our central bank flows from its control over the points of entry into the economy of new inflationary money which it creates out of thin air. Ordinary, highly, bills of exchange, acceptances, private bonds, government hunts and other credit instruments are purchased by the central bank through specially privileged dealers in order to put the new money, often only checking accounting entries, into circulation. The dealers are allowed a large profit since they are fronts operated by our agents. Our purchase of government securities pleases the government, as our purchase of private debt pleases private debtors. As a quid pro quo to assure good management, our agents are given directorships, managerial posts, and offices in the seal corporations, and governments so benefited as the addiction to the narcotic of inflationary easy credit grows and grows, we demand more and more control of our dependent entourage of governments and corporations. When we finally end the easy credit to combat inflation, the enterprises and governments either fall directly into our hands, bankrupt, or are rescued at the price of total control. Also, we ruling bankers control the flow of money in the economy through the wide authority of the central bank to license, audit, and regulate private banks. Banks that loan to interests outside the loyal entourage are audited by the central bank and found to be dangerously overextended. Just a hint of insolvency from the respected central bank authorities is enough to cause a run on the disobedient bank, or at least dry up its vital lines of credit. Soon the banking establishment learns to follow the hints and nods of your father's agents at the central bank automatically. Further, the periodic cycles of easy money and tight money that we initiate through our control of the central bank cause corresponding fluctuations in all markets. Our inner circle knows in advance the timing of these cycles and therefore reaps windfall profits by speculating in commodity, stock, currency, gold, and bond markets. Monopolistic stock and commodity exchanges are a vital adjunct to our power, made possible by our central bank power. We do not allow a fair auction market to exist, but make a great show of tough government regulation to create a false sense of confidence among small investors. With the aid of our regulatory charade and financial power, we are able to maintain exchanges tailored to our entourage's need to manipulate stock prices at the expense of independent investors. Our privileged specialists on the floors of our exchanges, aided by the propaganda of our financial press and brokerage houses, continually play on naivete and greed to drain the savings of the unwary into our coffers. The stock, commodity, ties, and securities held in trading accounts by the exchange and brokerage houses provides us with a clout far beyond our own actual holdings with which we can manipulate prices and win proxy fights for corporate takeovers. Little danger to our lucrative racket exists from public spirited regulation. Our manipulations are so complex that only the most brilliant experts could comprehend them. 2. Most economists our exchange operations appear to be helpful efforts to stabilize the market. We ruling bankers, if able to keep peace among ourselves, become richer and richer as time passes.